Hi, I'm Adam Lewis, the pastor at D1 Nez. I want to talk to you right now about the post-COVID church. Back at the end of 2019, going over into the beginning of 2020, this new virus started to rear its ugly head around the world. And I want to speak specifically to just us here in Illinois. As we watched the news, this virus was there, wherever there might have been. We felt like it was really far away from us. But as the days turned into weeks, and the weeks turned into a few months, the virus started to get closer and closer to where we were until eventually, not only was it in the United States, there were major things shutting down. And suddenly, this virus is right in our backyard. We treated this virus as we would any big news story because we get news stories from all over the world and we say, well, that is there and we are here. But the coronavirus does not know location, it does not know age, it doesn't know anything about its effect. It has affected all of us, and including the church. When things start to die down from this virus, the church is going to look very different. And if we do not operate differently because of it, then we have the chance to become irrelevant as a church. Now, I didn't say the church is going to die, but we have a chance to become even more irrelevant than we already are. Yes, I said that. So here is the post-COVID church. Here is what we need to, as leaders, be focusing on as the effects from this virus begin to calm down. Let me start with a little story. Last year, I hung up my helmet and I was no longer going to be a race car driver in the Sport Combat Division. And one of the compromises was my wife let me buy another kind of car. She let me buy a 2004 Mustang 40th Anniversary Edition. Now, not only do I love driving it, I also love working on it. And I had it in my garage, and for maybe the first 3 months that I had it, it was on jack stands. My good friend Rob came over, who's a Mustang fanatic, and he wanted to see the car. And so he walked in and he said, well, I was counting on going for a ride in your Mustang, but it's on jack stands. And he said, well, maybe next time. The next time he comes over a few weeks later, it's still on jack stands. And he walks in and says, this car is on jack stands more than it's on the road. He put his hand on my shoulder and said, Adam, I know this is not a surprise to you, but cars were not meant to be on jack stands. Cars were not meant to be parked in garages. When cars were designed, they were designed to move, to be on the road, to go at fast speeds, to go at slow speeds. They were not designed to just sit. And as he said that, I thought, wow, it's the same thing for the church. Because when the church was established by Jesus in Acts chapter 2, the last thing that they wanted to do is sit around and talk about how spiritual they were. But over the course of 2,000 years, what church has become is a group of people sitting inside a building talking about Jesus, while the world around them, their community around them, needs the truth, needs hope, needs help. We have the truth. We have the hope. We can help people. But we're too busy sitting inside the church talking about how spiritual we all are. The post-COVID church is the church that gets off the jack stands and puts the wheels back on and gets back out on the road. That is the post-COVID church. There are several topics that I want to bring up to you, and each have their own bullet points. Let me first bring up what we call the pre-COVID church. The pre-COVID church was primarily a destinational model. You came to us, we teach and preach, and then you go on your way. And this contributed to the consumeristic mindset of the church. This caused people to be church shopping. I go to this church, and the only thing that I have to gauge whether or not I like this church is the worship service. What's the production like? What are the lights like? What's the music like? Was the sermon good? No consideration given to the fact that that church may have a very healthy prayer life, be developing disciples, and have such a presence in their community that if they ever shut their doors, the community would not know what to do. We have contributed as church leaders to this whole consumeristic model. That is going to be the major attribute of the pre-COVID church. Here's another one. To church leaders, the only form of attendance that really counted was in person on Sunday morning. They never counted anything else. I think we need to change the scorecard for the local church, even in the Church of the Nazarene, because the only sign of health that we really have is how many come to your building on Sunday morning. There are other numbers that we need to consider. For example, how many people came to a saving faith in Jesus Christ this past year? How many were baptized? How many disciples did you make? How many stepped out of their comfort zone? Can we keep track of all these numbers? I think we can. That needs to be the number that we look at. That's the sign of a church that is healthy. The pre-COVID church had online church as an add-on. It was a luxury that most churches would struggle to create and maintain. That was the pre-COVID church. Because again, the only form of true attendance or true worship was if you were there. Online was just one of those nice additions. And everything drastically changed in America around a little before Easter time. During the days of COVID, families would worship from home, behind a computer screen or a TV. And churches suddenly became television studios filled with production volunteers, and the pastors became televangelists. For most first-time contacts, they were all online. The first time you would ever get introduced to somebody was in the cyber world, was on social media. We meet first-time guests virtually through Facebook chat or direct message or email. Families missed the church, but they loved the convenience of the 60-minute worship service in their pajamas instead of a 5-hour morning. So think about this. If a family of 6 wants to wake up on a Sunday morning and come to church, and they've had an extremely busy week, they have to wake up a couple hours early. All the kids have to get ready. They have to serve breakfast. They all have to get in the car. There's going to be fights and arguments and tension all along the way. Then they drive to church, and they got to get there early enough to drop the kids off in children's ministry, have the teens go join the teens in teen ministry, and the parents want to go get coffee and catch up with other people. They sit in the 1-hour worship service, and then there's another 30 minutes to walk out of that. Go pick up your kids, say hello, catch up, this, that, or the other. By the time it's said and done, Sunday morning was a 5-hour morning. What online worship did and what COVID did was make it more convenient. They don't have to leave the house. There's no tension. They gather people around the computer screen for 50 to 60 minutes, and as soon as it's done, they close the computer screen and they go about their day, or maybe they even get done and go, I should get ready for the day. They've already done church. We've made it convenient for them in the church. So when we open the doors, there is the high possibility that we may not see them for a long time. Here is the post-COVID church. Some will walk in as soon as the doors are open. They've been waiting for the doors on Sunday morning to open back up. And as soon as they do, they are there. But there will be some who never come back to the church because we have created this culture of them comfortably worshiping at home. Those folks can do without the fellowship of the body because while they were there, they never really fellowshipped anyway. They walked into the service, sat, were a part of the service, and then as soon as they dismissed, they were out of there. Some will watch the service later on a Sunday. They will not watch while it's live, and that will be their church. They may not join you on Sunday morning, but they may get the family together on Sunday night and watch together. Some will piecemeal church. They will watch the sermon from one church. They will enjoy the music from another. They will give their tithes and offerings to another. And they'll connect with people from another. It's piecemeal church, and it's happening right now. So there are some questions for reflection for you as the pastor and you as the church leaders. In what ways has your church put the wheels back on your ministry to go outside of the building? How does your church now move forward with its vision and mission and core values in light of the fact that there are some people who still call your church their church home? They still watch you online, but they may not come back for a while. How do you connect with them? How do you keep them connected and into the fellowship? How does discipleship in your church look now in the post-COVID days? Let me give you two things real quick as we close about the post-COVID church. The first thing is that you must do ministry outside of your building. Mobilize your people in order to become the church to all that they encounter. Church needs to happen more than just in the building. It needs to happen outside of the building. And Ephesians 4:11 and 12, equipping the saints for good works of service. Get your people in a room and ask them, how can we be the church? All right, let's sing a few songs, let's pray, and then let's go be the church. And what we'll do is we'll gather back here next week and we'll talk about the ways that we were the church to our community. We've got to mobilize the church again. It's got to become a movement, not a stay-putment. It's got to become something that's moving. They were followers of the way, not followers of the stay here. If you and your church feel that ministry can only happen in the building, then you need to take a long look at your practices, and you need to get leadership in a room and decide what are the best ways that we can move ministry to the outside, that we can become that truly unstoppable force to our community. How can we do this? Because we now live in the days of Corona. We live in the post-COVID church. Let's make sure that we are still effective as a congregation. Thanks for watching.